This is Dave McCain with the Right Tree Genealogy doing a new series, and that series is Ancestry.com Intro to Custom Grouping Using Colored Dots. Now that's the intro, that's part one, series part one. Part two is going to be applying more of the dots that we have seen, that we do in this video, and then the advanced video covers additional topics. So the beginning of this series, we're going to list our known ancestors. Preferably we have 8. You can do this with minimum of 4, but this example is going to show 8. And we're going to create a custom group dot for each of the surnames above. Now, important statement here, there are different methods to create these group dots. This is just one of them. This is one I'm applying to this individual's kit. You definitely need to have your DNA attached to your tree on Ancestry to get the best benefit of this method. And the expectation is that we're going to find additional matches to surnames by doing this custom group dots. Now, the 8 great-grandparents of this individual example are Kaywood, Allen, McKinney, Baker, Anderson, Purvis, Parker, and Cathers. Now again, just look at it this way. Your parents, that makes 2, and then your grandparents is 4, and your great-grandparents, you have 8. So once you are able to list most of these, if not all of them, in this case we have all of the 8 great-grandparents, then we can actually do this dot method for each one of them. So let's get into the actual kit. We're into the kit at this point, and I've blocked out the images here for privacy reasons, and I'll do that throughout this, so you're going to see areas blocked out, and that's just for privacy. Now we've logged in, we clicked that button, and now this is what we see. We see our match lists. Well, across the list and maps, you'll see a row of different options that we have, and in this case we want to click the group. We hit Create Custom Group button. Now at this point I will make this method's suggested color coding scheme. So this is how you do this method's color coding. There are 24 colors to choose from. You want to, when Ancestry starts and you have no other dots created, this is the best method to start with, is that nothing's been defined at this point. The dots will be number 1, 3, 5, and 7, or the odd numbers will be the great grandfathers, and 2, 4, 6, and 8 color will be the great grandmothers, or the even numbers. To illustrate that for this particular example, color 1 is for Kaywood, color 2 is Allen, color 3 is McKinney, color 4 is Baker, and so on. That's the father's side and the color codes, the mother's side and the color codes for her grandparents. Now, the last one on that list was Cathers. Well, that's the 8th color. If you look here, the 8th color is Cathers, number 8. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we have our 8 names, and we're on the 8th one to create it. And we have the last color in the middle. And there's a reason behind this. Going forward, we'll be utilizing these other 16 colors, but that's in part 3 when we actually apply that. Part 2 is applying these 8 dots for additional information, and then part 3 is going to cover what we do with these additional 16 dots. Now, what I have typed in on every one of these individuals is just a short phrase saying Cathers in tree. Since we are looking at the actual trees of the members, we're seeing this name in the trees for each one of our matches. Once we create that phrase, we hit save, and I've done that with every one of those, all 8 of those names, so that they're already in there. So for expediency, I didn't want to type that in for every one of them for this video. Now we're back to the match list. The next step is apply the dots to the matches. Since we've created all 8 of the surname dots of the 8 great-grandparents, now it's time to apply those dots. We're going to start with the name Kaywood. we type in the name Kaywood, and again, this is back into the DNA page when you first get there. In the middle of it, you'll have surnames and match tree. You type Kaywood, you hit search, and after you do that, there's another step because we're only going to apply this dot to the fourth cousins and closer. So we're going to click the shared DNA and change it to close matches, fourth cousins or closer. Now this individual has a lot of matches, and the reason this individual has a lot of matches is they are from a very endogamous area, so a lot of families intermarried. Not necessarily his line, but the families in the area married a lot, so he's going to see a lot of cousins, more than the average. Now once we hit that close matches, we hit apply. Once we do the apply, we're back to just the Kaywood matches. So this is all the people that have the name Kaywood spelled in their trees. Now we're going to want to click on the add to group. These groups that we just created. Once we hit that add to group, so we're going to click Kaywood. Now we scroll to the entire bottom of this list. Now this is going to take a while because you could have 100, 200 even matches if you're have an endogamous type area that you're from. You could have just a few names, but you scroll to the very bottom of that list and you click over here to the left side. You'll see a little block. You click it and you put a check mark in it. Check mark, check mark, check mark, and check mark. Once you have check marked every one of them, you just keep scrolling up till you get every one of them blocked. You hit add to group. Let's do that again and look at it. So we type in the name Alan. We hit search. Once we do that, we scroll down to the very bottom of it. We hit add to group. Now we click Alan in the tree. Okay. Once we click Alan in the tree, we click each one of those. And when we click each one of those, now we add them to the group. Now I want to note here, Kaywood was already done, and there are 13 individual matches that have the name Kaywood in their tree. Now some of these are going to have a lot more than that when we do that. So we scroll up every one of those, get them all added, and then you hit add to group. Another example, just kind of reinforce this one more time, is we type in Baker, we hit search. If you notice, we had 323 Allens and 13 of the Kaywoods. In this case, we hit Baker, we click Baker, and now we go all the way to the bottom of that match list and we click each one of those names, go through every one of them. You just scroll your mouse or scroll up until you get every one of them. You start at the bottom, scroll up, and add these the check marks, and then add the group. Once we've done all the adds to the group, now it's time to reset the filters. We've created two filters. One is the search name and the other one is the close matches that are fourth cousins or closer. So we want to hit the cancel the surname search, and after we've canceled the surname search, we now want to change this to all matches. Just change this back to all matches and hit apply. And again, what we do that for is we've done what we wanted to do to get the surnames in the first group of people, and now we just want to reset the filters. Now that we've done that, you hit apply. You will now see, just like when you first logged in, you're going to see the names appear, all of them, all your matches. Now a note here is if you kind of start scrolling down a little bit or up, whichever way you do it on your computer, you're going to see some of your matches actually have dots to them. Some of them, and they're going to have different color dots. Although these dots and these dots look similar color, they're actually different colors. But you have some of your matches, because we're able to find them in their trees at this point, and we've reset the filters, we can see them. Now this was a short video for part one. Part one comments is we created this method. We've created a custom dots so we can analyze our matches going forward for the first the 8 great-grandparents, those 8 surnames. And what you'll be able to do even now, if you just stop right here, you at least have a visual ability to see how some of the surnames appear with those matches. And if you don't recognize the name, you can see the dot and look at the dot and say, hey, oh, this is the McKinney, or this is Kaywood, or this is Cathers, or Purvis. You may be able to see any of those names at this point show up and go, okay, that's probably how that person matches with me. Now, a special note here on these conclusions and comments on part 1 is special notes. So part 2 is going to cover the additional application when we didn't find them in the search list, search tool. Another thing we do next is how to get some additional dots added. Of those 8 is part 2. And then part 3 is going to cover, there are 24 dots. We're going to show that you can actually make up to 40 ancestral surnames matching with these dots. You start with your base of great-grandparents of 8, and then you go to the next step, which is, and I'll kind of give a preface to it here, is we get the next step, the great-grandparents or the grandparents of each of the great-grandparents, and surnames will be listed. So that's part 3. Well, I hope this video was informative. What I suggest you do is you go and you create these dots, go through the step of just actually applying them to those that you can find first, and you get comfortable with what we did there. And then when you see the next part, you say, okay, now I know how to apply the dots even further. So thanks for watching this video. Please consider subscribing right here. Watch these videos up here. This particular video will be in the future, maybe not at the moment, but will be part 2 of this series, and this other side will just show the link to the genetic genealogy playlist. Let's continue learning together.